Nice.
Good morning, I'm Thomas Farrugia, the CEO at BetaBugs, and I'll be telling you about insect farming and how it enables agriculture. So briefly, a bit about BetaBugs. We're an insect genetics company which develops and distributes breeds of black soldier fly to insect farmers. So that's quite a mouthful, so I'll break it down. Where we develop breeds of black soldier fly. So black soldier fly is a farmed insect. And as a developer of breeds, we run a breeding program. So we improve the black soldier fly and its larva. As a distributor of breeds, we multiply up the genetics and we supply it from an egg production facility. We're headquartered in Edinburgh, and we collaborate with the Roslin Institute, leaders in animal genetics, on the breeding program. So this is the black soldier fly larva. I'll talk a bit more about some of its features in a few slides. It grows to around 2 centimeters, and this is what's used to produce the protein. This is the fly. Its main existence is to lay eggs, and that's about it pretty much. It does not have much economic value apart from laying eggs. So this is what a life cycle for black soldier fly looks like. And you have flies, which lay up to around 600 to 1,000 eggs. The eggs will then hatch out into larvae. You'll have larvae which start out as small pinheads, and then they'll grow rapidly. And then you can harvest them at that stage. If you let them go on further, they'll become pre-pupa, and then they will turn into pupa. So it's a bit like a cocoon, a caterpillar cocoon, and then they'll emerge as flies, and the cycle repeats. So a bit about the black soldier fly. It's a hungry and fast-growing animal. It roughly does around an 8,000-fold increase in size in just 14 days. So that's a bit like a rabbit turning into the size of an elephant in 14 days. It's very versatile in what it can eat. It eats a whole range of substrates, from agricultural residues to meat and fish, to brewer's grains and other coke products. It's, depending on how you process it, it can be very high in protein, and depending on what you feed it as well. When you take the larva, you mince it up, you squeeze the oil out, you can have a very high protein meal in the range of 56 to 82%. And it's a low carbon alternative protein because you can use it to reduce locally produced greenhouse gases and also displace emissions from soya, which is imported in. So why farm black soldier fly? It's really an opportunity to turn low-grade substrates into high-grade protein ingredients. So that's a way of converting, capturing value. It's a way to produce a protein with a low carbon footprint as well at the same time. You can use it on farm, so you can improve on farm feeding. Right now in the UK, legislation allows the use of live larvae to feed poultry. As an industry, we are lobbying to bring it up to where the EU is, which is to use insect protein for pig and poultry compound feed, and it can already be used for aqua feed as a compound ingredient in aqua feed in the UK as well. And lastly, the insect excreta, effectively a bit like manure, is called frass, and the frass has a lot of insect shell in it, and you can use that. If you spread that on soil, it improves plant health, and plants will grow better. And the reason there is that the insect shells get broken down by bacteria and stimulate a response by the plants. And it has also been shown to reduce potato nematodes and fungi in the soil as well. So why farm the insects? It's primarily, you take co-products or agricultural residues, you can feed them to the larva, and then you've got this protein source which you can then use as a feed ingredient. And that then runs through the supply chain. It goes to the livestock, and then comes to the retailers. Eventually, it hits the consumers. And then, if there's anything coming out of retail in terms of waste not being used, it can come back into the system and be used again. So, circular economy here. And what we're doing by building this system is you make a more resilient supply chain because you can produce your protein locally without having to import it. So, touching on the low carbon aspects, given it's a low carbon trade show, this is the impacts in terms of soya production. When you look at it, we do cut down chunks of the Amazon to make more soya, and then we ship it across the ocean to get to the UK. The UK is a net importer of soya, 90 significant amounts, and the point here, which is a really interesting report by the WWF with Tesco on the future of feed. So I did an analysis of insect protein in the UK. And this is a conservative estimate, I would say, is that the UK can reduce its soy footprint by 500,000 tons of soya by 2050. And that analysis built in a number of producers at different scales producing insect protein, from small ones to large ones, I'd say in the range of 20 to 25. I think we can do more than that, and that means we can actually reduce our soy footprint even further by that time point. The other aspect of low carbon is you can use materials which would be possibly going to landfill, and those will produce greenhouse gases if they're effectively landfilled. Instead, you can use these as substrates. The insects can, you hatch the insects out on them, they grow them. They eat the material and they'll grow, and then you process them into a low carbon dioxide protein again. And there's some simple calculations here. If you took all the UK's food waste, that translates to 600,000 tons of CO2 if they're fed to, if that's used as a substrate for insects. So at its heart, what does insect farming look like? At its heart, really, simple systems. You can go with trays, and you're just starting off with trays, and then you stack them high, you stack them deep. And if you really go further and you're going to commercial production, I'm going to show you a picture of what a commercial site looks like. This is out of Holland. It's just a few pictures, but what you end up is with a large industrial unit, which has dedicated systems for maintaining all these trays. You supply the feed in an automated way and supply the larvae in an automated way to control density. And then you effectively stack them high, stack them deep, and grow them in offset batches. And by doing that, you can then have a continuous protein production system. And these systems will do in the thousands of tons of insect protein per year. So what we've seen there really is that you need to take insect farming hardware, and these are systems which are increasingly becoming off the shelf. So you don't need to go and reinvent the wheel, actually. And then you install genetics into the hardware. So that's kind of like your software in a way. And you just run it. So you run eggs or neonates through the hardware, and that allows you to produce insects, which you can feed live to poultry. You can produce insect protein if you process further, and the oil, and both of these can be used in animal feed ingredients. And then you can also have the frass, which, as we described, can be used on soy as a plant conditioner, effectively. So we're in the business where we supply the eggs to insect farmers. So and this really simplifies the process, actually. It's a bit like, farming chickens. You receive the day-old chicks, or in some instances with pigs where you receive the piglets and you finish them off. This is effectively a more efficient and a simpler process. It allows you to use less space with regards to fly production, because you don't actually have to do it. And you don't need as much expert labor on the fly production angle either, because you're just growing the larvae. We're a specialized supplier of eggs, so that stabilizes your inputs, giving you a more stable process. And by just doing the larvae, you really focus on production and doing the bit which makes the protein. Less variables for you to track and worry about effectively. And then when it comes to working with us, we supply eggs, and it's a dedicated egg production facility. We run a breeding program developing specialized genetics, and we're local to the UK, so we're a local supplier, and we'll be able to supply larvae or eggs to sites. Now, these are the last 3 points I'll touch on a bit, because we're expert at what we do, which is genetics and egg production. We are in the business of simplifying your operation by supplying you with eggs, and we're invested in your success. And by focusing only on genetics and egg production, we're upstream of protein producers, and we're really committed to seeing protein producers succeed. So we're not in competition here. We're about supplying you with the best genetics, which continually improve, and seeing you succeed as a result. Products we offer include Just Fly and Hyperfly. So Just Fly is an entry-level breed. If you're dipping into the market, you want to try growing the larvae and hatching out the eggs. Hyperfly is what comes out of the breeding program, and that's high performance genetics. And that's what's continually improved and made better over time. And how we get you going, we've got effectively, there's a range of volumes of eggs, and that's per run. So initially, if you just want to try it out, we can get you a starter pack, which is basically a tray and a small batch of eggs. So you can just hatch them out, see what the larvae are like, see what the process looks like, run it a bit. If you want to go into regular testing, you're looking at 2 to 50 grams per batch. and that starts translating into 80 to 200 kilos of larvae, depending on the feed you're putting in and the climate conditions you grow them under. And then if you're going into regular batch production and large scale production, you're looking at 50 to 500 grams and then kilo scale of eggs. And that's when you start producing significant amounts of larvae. You're looking at 200 kilos to 2 tons. And then if you go a kilo of eggs upwards, you're looking at 4 tons upwards of black soldier fly larvae. And if there's any queries about this, happy to have them at our stand, or you can just reach out to us as well directly from the contact details below. We're over at stand 116 actually. We're raffling off a number of starter packs, and we're happy to take any questions on this and discuss opportunities with yourselves. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Oh, there we go. Stop recording.